The singer and former The Voice coach roasted the Tonight Show host relentlessly for his milking technique, and his outfit. How many men does it take to milk a cow? Apparently, it's two, one to actually milk the cow, and another to hold a bowl of dry cereal under the udders while dressed like Woody from Toy Story. When Blake Shelton learned Jimmy Fallon had never touched an udder in his life, he offered his farm experience for a segment on The Tonight Show. In it, the real-life Oklahoma rancher taught Fallon how to do one of the most basic farm tasks there is. Except Fallon showed up in a plaid shirt, overalls, and a cowboy hat, which Shelton, who was wearing a normal outfit, called very disrespectful. "You think this is a game?" the former The Voice coach said, stifling laughter. "This is serious. Is your comedy show over yet? We're here to milk a cow right now." Shelton introduced Fallon to a cow named Oreo, and Oreo probably had no idea what she was in for. "You're about to be touching her in a very private area," Shelton said. "Which is totally normal, if you act normal about it." Fallon tried to jump right in and grab a teat, but then had to endure Shelton's instructions about milking and stroking and squeezing. After Shelton made it look easy as he showed Fallon how it was done, the comedian did finally manage to get a small amount of fresh milk into the bucket. Shelton then introduced an old farming tradition of doing a shot of your first milk, which might not actually be a thing. Shelton tossed his over his shoulder while Fallon downed a shot of something he could only describe as warm. "Congratulations. I'm very, very, very proud of you," Shelton told Fallon, joking, "This is the first time I've ever been happy with you." Don't miss Blake Shelton's return to The Tonight Show on May 13th. Blake Shelton will pay a visit to his pal Jimmy Fallon when he makes his return to The Tonight Show on Tuesday, May 13th. In addition for sitting down for an interview, Shelton will also perform as the musical guest. Blake Shelton was returning Jimmy Fallon's sushi favor. Fallon learned to milk a cow after the Tonight Show host taught the hanging-on singer how to eat sushi. The country singer had never tried the raw Japanese delicacy before, so Fallon took him to Nobu for his first real sushi experience. While he loved sake, rice wine, he was not a huge fan of the rest of the meal. He did like the taste of tuna, but thought the texture was like Play-Doh. He was happiest at the end of the meal when Fallon surprised him with a Big Mac, so it's sort of unclear who came out of this on top, the guy who barely milked a cow, or the guy who ate one. Shelton, who served as a coach on The Voice from 2011 to 2023, has made many appearances on The Tonight Show over the years and has become one of Fallon's best frenemies. Only Shelton can get away with responding to a game with, "It's just something stupid we're doing," or is it, like, "You keep score?" Jimmy Fallon was no stranger to embarrassing himself on national television. After all, it was practically part of his job description. But nothing could have prepared the Tonight Show host for a muddy, moo-filled afternoon on Blake Shelton's Oklahoma ranch, a place Fallon jokingly referred to as the land time forgot. It all started when Fallon teased Shelton during a previous appearance on The Tonight Show, joking that the country star had probably never milked a cow in his life. Blake had laughed it off, but with that sly glint in his eye that spelled revenge. A few weeks later, Fallon received an invitation, or more accurately, a challenge, via Instagram. "Come on down to the ranch, city boy. I'll show you how it's done." Fallon, never one to back down from a dare, especially one broadcast to millions, agreed. What followed was one of the most hilarious culture clashes ever caught on camera. It was just after sunrise when Fallon arrived at Shelton's sprawling Oklahoma property. Wearing brand new, never-before-worn cowboy boots, a crisp flannel shirt, and jeans that were clearly purchased for the occasion, Fallon stepped out of the black SUV like he was entering a foreign country. Blake greeted him with a smirk, wearing faded Wranglers, a sweat-stained cap, and muddy work boots. Well, if it ain't Johnny Rodeo," Blake chuckled. "Nice boots. They come with a city slicker manual?" "Just for the record," Fallon said, adjusting his collar, "I grew up in upstate New York. We had trees. Cows were somewhere nearby, I think." "You ever touch a cow?" Blake asked. "Only at a petting zoo," Fallon admitted. Blake threw his head back and howled with laughter. "Lord, this is gonna be fun." The camera crew followed the duo as they walked toward the barn, Blake casually pointing out sights along the way. "Over there's the chicken coop. That's where the real divas live. And this," he said, opening the barn doors, "is Bessie, your instructor." Inside the barn stood a large, surprisingly calm Holstein cow. Bessie blinked lazily as the men approached, clearly unbothered by celebrity antics. Fallon took a cautious step forward. "Is she friendly?" Blake grinned. "Friendlier than you'll be after she kicks you." No one mentioned kicking. Blake slapped him on the back. Relax. She only kicks if you surprise her. Or insult her music taste. She's a big fan of Reba. As Jimmy nervously approached the cow, Blake demonstrated the basics: how to squat beside her, gently pat her side to let her know you're there, and then begin the milking process. It's all about rhythm, he explained. Like playing guitar. Or telling a decent joke. Jimmy tried to mimic the motion, but immediately squirted milk all over his jeans. Congratulations, Blake laughed. You just milked your pants. I think she's mad at me, Jimmy said, wide-eyed. Or she thinks you're flirting. Either way, keep your eyes on the udders. The two men continued the lesson, with Blake providing helpful but endlessly sarcastic commentary. Grip it like a microphone, he instructed. No, not that tight. You're not choking out a guest. Does this make me a dairy farmer now? Fallon asked between attempts. You're more like a dairy disaster. At one point, Bessie let out a loud moo, causing Fallon to leap backward in terror. She's talking to you, Blake said, wiping tears of laughter from his eyes. She said you're the worst milker she's ever met. I believe her, Jimmy sighed. After several attempts, a lot of spilled milk, and one moment where Jimmy nearly sat in the bucket, Fallon finally managed to get a steady stream. Blake gave a mock round of applause. There you go. Took you only 20 minutes and a possible hernia. Jimmy stood up, triumphant. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you, Bessie's best. You know what's really sad? Blake said, smirking. That cow's done more hard work today than you have in 5 years. I'm gonna have nightmares about udders, Jimmy said, brushing hay off his jeans. You'll get over it. We've still got eggs together. Nope. I draw the line at chicken attacks. Later that day, the footage aired on The Tonight Show, complete with dramatic music, slow-motion close-ups of Fallon's terrified face, and a voiceover calling it the utterly ridiculous showdown. Fans were in stitches, and social media exploded with memes of Jimmy cringing beside Bessie. But amid the jokes, there was genuine camaraderie between the two stars. Back on the ranch, after the cameras stopped rolling, Fallon and Shelton sat on the porch sipping lemonade as the sun set. Thanks for not letting Bessie trample me, Jimmy said. I considered it, Blake deadpanned. You ever think about trading in music for full-time ranching? Blake looked out over his land. Sometimes. It's peaceful. But I still like messing with people too much. Well, Jimmy said, raising his glass, mission accomplished. The segment became one of the most beloved in Tonight Show history, with fans clamoring for a sequel. Jimmy learns to ride a tractor. Jimmy chases pigs, and even Jimmy tries line dancing. Blake, never one to let a good joke die, hinted on Twitter that Fallon would be invited back next spring, for calving season. I just wanted to learn how to milk a cow, Jimmy later said in a follow-up segment. What I got was a day in the life of Blake Shelton, and a very judgy cow named Bessie. Blake Shelton, for his part, summarized the experience perfectly in a backstage interview. He tried. He failed. But he looked hilarious doing it. And hey, now he knows where milk comes from. That's a win for America. Would you like a comedic follow-up involving Jimmy and calving season or a tractor driving sequel?